Welcome, everybody. We are here to talk about a touchy subject, but one that's very important for a lot of people. So quieting the courts. Being proactive is better. We're trying not to have folks believe that it can be brushed under the rug and it won't come up, it won't be an issue. So how do we just be forthcoming with it and really understand what it means for the individuals putting this facility up, as well as the community around them? And so, Josh, I think, starting with your standpoint from a legal aspect.
Location. Right? We want to understand what is the zoning. Are you in a residential area? Are you in a recreational area? Really understanding what types of uses are permitted, prohibited, or oftentimes permitted as a special permit, where you have to get some sort of special use approval. And those special use approvals are not granted usually by just filling out an application permit. They're usually after a public hearing process where you have to notify neighbors within a certain radius of where you want to do this project. So we love to get involved from the jump and really help advise the client what sort of regulations we're going to face just as a zoning code, not just in terms of bulk and setbacks and locations, but also what are the community environmental factors that we really are going to need to address. And if we could be proactive on that, we have found that that's very helpful throughout an approval process and really being a good neighbor after the project is completed.
Yeah, but let me say that pickleball is quite naturally a somewhat higher pitch because this paddle without strings in it likes to vibrate rather quickly. So that's where the pitch comes from. It comes from the vibration of the paddle. The paddle presses against air. Those air waves reach our ears. The ball does its own little vibration. I have a typical ball. It vibrates much more rapidly, and the ball travels, it loses that vibration. But you hold the paddle and it generates sound. And so what you hold in your hand and how it's built impacts that sound. And you can modify that design to reduce the impact of the sound. Typically, with a regular paddle, a paddle that's been around for more than 20 years, the type of paddle, it's in the range of 1,000 to 2,000 hertz vibration. That is 1 to 2,000 times per second it vibrates. And that's a pitch right in the range of human hearing. And humans are sensitive to those sounds. We're very sensitive to it. Very high frequency sound we lose as we get older. Very low frequency sounds, bass notes, thumps, rumbles are less troublesome to us. And we are tuned, our hearing is tuned so that we can make out human speech well. And a sound that's right in that range of human speech can be pretty annoying. And that's why sometimes pickleball can be a sound problem.
We look at satellite views, first of all, to see where the buildings are, to see what the elevation changes are, to see whether they're two-story homes or single-story homes, to see whether there's water or flat ground or parking lots around them. And we plot every one of these locations into acoustic software overlaid on a Google Earth kind of a design. We know where all the noise sources are. We know where all the barriers or reflections can happen, the popping sound that happens with pickleball, so that we have a solution for those people if it can happen. And sometimes it can't happen. The houses are too close. The issues are just not solvable without enclosing the court. There are ways that we can incorporate using court enclosures to encapsulate sound to keep it from propagating out up over barriers to higher elevations, fifth story of a building or a condo next to the courts. That's the job that we're doing in the real world.
Pickleball has this particular pitch typically with ordinary equipment and ordinary balls. So one of the tools we have, of course, is perhaps you don't use ordinary equipment, ordinary balls, and perhaps use other tools to mitigate the impact of pickleball sound. Barriers are one of the key tools we have to reduce the sound. If you build an enclosure, you can reduce the sound level. If you put up a wall, you can reduce the sound level. Any kind of barrier has the potential for reducing sound. Usually the heavier the barrier, the better. But typically when you have a wall or a barrier, sound goes over the barrier. Some of the sound hitting a barrier is reflected back.
Ordinances, legislating is not necessarily a speedy act, and you should do it with real thought and study. And there's also a lack of uniformity on noise codes. Just in New York or on Long Island, you could have different towns, villages, and unincorporated areas, and you could have completely different jurisdictions by crossing over, or different rules just by crossing over a street. there's also no sense, there's no standard in terms of what's considered rules that should be applicable for pickleball courts or for sports courts. You know, is a sports court a pickleball court? So a lot of people who on their own homes have pools, they want to have tennis courts. Now they want to convert their tennis courts to pickleball courts, and then the neighbors are now coming out because the sound is different.